Now, having understood the advantages, let's move with the disadvantages of a company. The first one is difficulty of formation. Now, promotion of a company is not an easy task. A number of stages are involved in the company promotion. So, the suitability of a particular business is to be decided first. What kind of a business am I going to do? The number of persons should be ready to associate for getting a company incorporated. So, there are a lot of legal formalities which are required to be performed at the time of registration. So, it's a tedious process. The shares will have to be sold during the particular time, and promotion of a company is both expensive and risky. Clear? So it is difficulty because I have lot of legal formalities as well. Separation of ownership of management is a disadvantage because the owners, that is shareholders, play an insignificant role in the working of the company. On the other hand, control is in the hands of those who have no stakes in the company. So, the management may indulge in speculative business activities. There is no direct relationship between the efforts and rewards. The profits of the company belong to the shareholders and the board of directors are paid only a commission. So, the management does not take personal interest in the working of the company as in the case of partnership and sole trader business. Evils of factory system. The company form of organization leads to large scale production. Since I have a large scale production, the evils of factory systems like insanitation, air pollution, congestion of cities are attributed to joint stock companies. So, it facilitates formation of business combinations which ultimately leads to the monopolistic control and exploitation of consumers. Speculation in shares. The joint stock companies facilitate speculation in the shares of stock exchange. The prices of shares depend upon both the economic and non-economic factors. The speculators try to fluctuate the prices of shares according to their suitability. So, the stock exchanges will not help the growth of healthy investment when speculative activities are being carried on. The management of joint stock companies also sometimes encourage speculation in shares for their personal gains. Fraudulent management. The promoters and directors may indulge in fraudulent practices. The management of the company is in the hands of those persons who have not invested much in the company. They basically get only a commission or are paid salary. So the company law has devised methods to check fraudulent practices, but they have not proved enough to check them completely. Though we have, but it is not enough to check them completely. Lack of secrecy. The management of companies remain in the hands of many persons. So everything is discussed in the meetings of board of directors. So the trade secrets cannot be maintained. In case of sole trader and partnership concerns, see, there are few members, so secrecy is possible because a few persons are involved in management, whereas in the case of company it is not. Delay in decision making. In company form of organization, no single individual can make a policy decision. All important decisions are to be taken either by the board of directors or are referred to general house. So it takes a lot of time. It's time consuming. If some business opportunity arises and a quick decision is needed, it will not be possible to arrange meetings all of a sudden. So many opportunities may be lost because of a delay in decision making. Concentration, and the last one is excessive state regulations. A large number of rules and regulations are framed for the working of the companies by states. The companies will have to follow rules even for their internal workings. The government tries to regulate the working of the companies because large public money is involved. So the government has to play a role. The formalities are many and the penalties for their own compliances are heavy. This often it does not attract the companies from their main objectives for which they have been formed. Now, understood with the disadvantages? Shall we move to the next? The most important things, which is a repeated question, easy. Only thing is you need to understand the various subheadings, the different types of companies. Now, on the basis of incorporation, we have statutory companies and registered companies. Now, what are statutory companies? These are companies which are constituted by a special act of parliament or state legislature. So, they are formed mainly with an intention to provide public services. Though primarily they are governed under the special act, still the Companies Act 2013 will be applicable to them except where the said provisions are inconsistent. For examples of these types of companies are RBI, LIC, etc. Registered companies, the companies which are registered under the Companies Act 2013 or under any previous company law are called registered companies. So, such companies come into existence when they are registered under the Companies Act and a certificate of incorporation is granted to it by the registrar. This is on the basis of incorporation. Second one, on the basis of liability, companies limited by shares, as we already have done in features and advantages, a company that has a liability of its members limited by the memorandum to the amount, if any, unpaid on the shares respectively held by them is termed as a company limited by shares. So, the liability can be enforced during existence of the company as well as during the winding up. Where the shares are fully paid up, no further liability rests on them. Only for the unpaid shares they become liable. For example, a shareholder who has paid 75 on a share of face value 100 can be called upon to pay the balance of 25 only. So, companies limited by shares are by far the most common and may be either public or private. Next, company limited by guarantee. These are those companies which has a liability of its members limited to such amount as the members may respectively undertake by the memorandum to contribute to the assets of the companies in the event of its being wound up. In case of such companies, the liability of its members is limited to the amount of guarantee undertaken by them. So, the members of such companies are placed in the position of guarantors. These members are guarantors of the company's debts up to the agreed amount. What are the major forms? Like clubs, trade associations, research associations and societies for promoting various objects are examples of this guarantee companies. They take in a guarantee of certain assets and in the case the liability restricts to that. Unlimited liability companies, as the very name suggests, they do not have a limit on the liability of its members. The members are liable for the company's debts in proportion to their respective interest in the company and their liability is unlimited. Such companies may or may not have share capital. They may be either a public company or a private company where they don't have a share capital. Clear with on the basis of incorporation, on the basis of liability. Next, on the basis of number of members, the most frequent one, public company. A public company means a company which is not a private company. It is formed by the purpose of it is any lawful purpose and it should have 7 or more persons. Every public limited shall have minimum 3 directors and limited at the end of its name should be compulsorily written. Now also a private company that is a subsidiary to of a public company will be considered as a public company. I repeat, a private company that is a subsidiary of a public company also comes under a public company. Clear? Next, private company. A private company means a company which by its articles of association restricts the right of transfer to its shares and limits the number of its members to 200. It cannot have more than 200 members. they again have to be formed for any lawful purpose. Minimum number of persons is 2 or more, and it must have 2 directors, and the private limited and the end of its name should be compulsorily written. Now private companies enjoy several privileges and exemptions under the Companies Act, public and private. Now one person company, as the very name suggests, it is a company with only one person who is only one member. So with the enactment of the Companies Act 2013, several new concepts were introduced that was not in existence of the Companies Act 1956. So starting businesses giving flexibility which a company form of entity can offer limited liability that sole proprietorship or partnership does not offer. Now what is a one person company? It means a company which has only one person as a member. It is again formed for any lawful purpose, and the sole member is also the nominee of the company. Clear till here? We'll move to the next slide. On the basis of domicile, it is a foreign company, means a company or a body corporated incorporated outside India and having its incorporated or outside India, which has a place of business in India, whether by itself or through an agent, physically or through electronic mode, or conducts any business activity in India in any other manner. Then Indian company, as the very name suggests, a company formed and registered in India is known as an Indian company. Now apart from this, we do have other forms of company which we will be doing it in the next slide. I hope all of you are clear till here. We'll just go through once again. On the basis of incorporation, on the basis of liability, on the basis of number of members, on the basis of domicile. I'll stop with this. We will just continue in the next slide, not taking